Hello, you're watching the Ruslan Belov channel, and today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine as of June 25, 2025. A lot has happened today, so let's get started. Over the past several days, we've repeatedly paid attention to and discussed the situation on the Sumy front. Ukrainian units managed to organize a series of counterattacks and regained control over certain areas, including the settlement of Andriivka. And now everything is starting to come together into a bigger picture. It seems that before launching this offensive, this next Sumy adventure, so to speak, Zelensky ordered Sursky to organize counterattacks so that Zelensky himself would have at least some strong cards to play when attending the NATO summit. And he went. While battles are ongoing in the Sumy region, Zelensky is trying to negotiate with European representatives for continued financial support. Today, we are receiving a lot of interesting information, and of course, in the spotlight is Donald Trump, the President of the United States, and his possible meeting with Zelensky. At least earlier today, it was only a potential meeting. But now, at the moment I'm preparing this video, reports are coming in that the meeting actually took place. One thing is clear, Zelensky is currently trying to convince the US President to at least start selling weapons to Ukraine, for money. Zelensky is no longer talking about free supplies or aid of any kind. Now, the focus is solely on buying weapons directly, for cash. By the way, Mark Rutte announced that Ukraine will receive a total of $50 billion from NATO by the end of 2025. That's a substantial sum, and according to Rutte, this aid already exceeds the amount provided by NATO countries in 2024. So as we can see, Ukraine's military budget continues to grow, and overall, the country does not have issues with funding. There might be problems with access to certain types of weapons, but when it comes to finances, there is money for waging war. Let's return to the zone of the special military operation. As we mentioned earlier, a counteroffensive was launched in the Sumy region. Just a day before the NATO summits, Ukrainian forces managed to fully regain control over the settlement of Andriivka. We previously highlighted and discussed the situation in this direction, but by approximately June 24th, Russian forces were able to regroup in this area and launched their own counterattack. Here are the moments where the Russian army is attempting to encircle the settlement of Andriivka to subsequently enter from multiple directions. The Ukrainian side deployed a large number of drones, and we can observe how this counterattack process unfolded. As of the evening of June 25th, reports indicate that Russian units have entered the central part of Andriivka and may have regained full control of its northern section. Footage published by Ukraine's 71st Jaeger Brigade shows strikes being carried out against Russian assault troops within the village. So we can conclude that while Russian forces are unlikely to fully reclaim Andriivka during the NATO summit, it clearly remains a top priority in the near term. There are also reports that the Ukrainian army managed to regain control of the forested areas around the village of Sadki. This small village lies directly along the national border. According to some cartographers, these forests have returned to Ukrainian control. Previously, most cartographers marked this area as under Russian control, without any geolocated footage or visual confirmation. We had placed these areas in the grey or contested zone. Today, we are simply restoring these areas to Ukrainian control on the map, since we have received nothing to confirm the opposite. But despite these counterattacks near Andriivka and along the border, which were organized by Ukraine ahead of the NATO summit, we're seeing continued activity near Yunakivka, where the fighting seems to be nearing its end. The following footage was published today by Ukrainian sources, who claim it shows Ukrainian forces striking Russian logistics. However, that doesn't appear to be the case. In the very first seconds of the video, we can see the destruction of a bridge in Yunakivka. So I doubt this is an attack on Russian logistics. Rather, these are demolitions, Ukrainian troops blowing up bridges with their own hands to prevent them from falling into Russian control. Primarily, this footage suggests that Ukrainian forces are likely withdrawing from the eastern part of Yunakivka and blowing up the bridges as they retreat. These are important scenes. They indicate that the northern and northeastern parts of the village are most likely already under firm Russian control. In the near future, we should expect objective control footage confirming the Russian army's advance in this area. With bridges being blown up, This means Ukrainian troops are either preparing for or already beginning to withdraw to the second line of defense. This suggests that very soon the initiative will once again be in Russian hands and will begin adjusting the frontline map further and further toward the city of Sumy. Now we move to the Kupyansk front. Today the main action is unfolding north of Kupyansk. We continue to receive map updates from various cartographers, pro-Russian, neutral and pro-Ukrainian, indicating Russian advances near the settlement of Holubivka. For the first time, the advance near Holubivka was noted yesterday by neutral cartographers and pro-Ukrainian sources. Yesterday, Deep State made a map update, claiming that Russian forces had fully cleared the village. And today, additional confirmations are emerging. Perhaps everyone is just copying each other. It's difficult to draw any definitive conclusions here. But in any case, we can see that the Russian army is already approaching Kupyansk itself. Today, reliable sources also report the clearing of a fortified position located along the R79 highway near the village of Radkivka. We're talking about a fortified structure just a few kilometers from the first buildings of Kupyansk. It's hard to say whether the Russian army will continue its assault or switch to other maneuvers, perhaps expanding its foothold. But possibly within the next 1 to 2 weeks, we may see fighting inside the Kupyansk urban area itself. Things could begin escalating very rapidly here, even within the next few hours. We now move to the Lyman sector. This is another front where, according to various sources, the armed forces of Ukraine managed to launch a counterattack just before the NATO summit. According to some experts, Ukrainian forces regained control over the part of Kharkivka located on the Ukrainian side of the Nitrius River. Russian units withdrew from this bridgehead. There are also reports that Ukrainian formations entered the northwestern section of the village of Rydkodub. If we talk about the push toward Rydkodub, the logic is quite clear. Over the past few days, we have repeatedly received reports of advances from Rydkodub toward Hlushenkove and the village of Novyi Mir. Apparently, the flanking strike toward the Duba River is aimed at halting Russian advances and preventing the establishment of a strong bridgehead north of the Dubas River, from the Nitrius River to the Zherebets River, in the area of the villages of Makevka and Novyi Dziany. The strike has taken place, and the Russian army will likely now have to refocus on restoring its positions and pushing Ukrainian forces back towards settlements such as Vovchi Yar, Malievka, and the western bank of the Kharkivka River. Next, we move to the Kostyantinivka sector. This is the third area where Ukrainian forces managed to carry out a minor counteroffensive, this time near the village of Bila Hora. Some cartographers report that Ukrainian units regained control over a series of strongpoints located between Delivka, Kurdyumivka, and the Siversky Donetsk-Donbas Canal. Again, we are mapping these territories based on areas previously considered contested. There might not have been an actual counterattack, but sometimes during such offensives, cartographers rush forward and color in areas that Russian troops haven't actually reached. Perhaps what's happening now is just adjustments along the front line as the situation stabilizes. Now, regarding the southern part of the Kupyansk pocket, there are reports that the Russian army has almost completely cleared the southern, eastern, central, and western areas of the village of Oleksandr Kalinove. Russian forces have approached the Kupyansk reservoir from the eastern and southeastern flanks of both Yablunivka and Oleksandr Kalinove. Here we see the full decomposition of this front. Yablunivka is being encircled and attacked from both the west and southeast. Full fire control and FPV drone surveillance have been established over the pocket southeast of the Kupyansk reservoir. The Russian side is not rushing to advance here. Apparently, the priority now is to fully clear Oleksandr Kalinova and Yablunivka. After this, freed-up forces might be redirected to this pocket, where combat may begin in earnest and at higher intensity. The Russian army continues pushing to break a corridor west and northwest of the N32 highway. Remember, this area is seeing increased use of Russian Geran strike drones employed alongside FPV and Lancet-type drones. These reinforced Geran drones are striking warehouses and frontline positions. The goal here is to break through the defense lines completely. The intensity of these strikes appears to be increasing. Based on all the objective control footage from this area, including full control over supply routes using fiber optic drone guidance systems, We can assume that the Russian army will likely attempt to advance further northwest to clear settlements like Novotoretsk, Mayak, and Volodymyrivka. This pocket, or bag, is currently the focus of intense artillery fire and FPV drone operations. The area is being leveled meter by meter. Now let's move to the Dnipropetrovsk direction, specifically the Novopavlivka sector. The biggest news today comes from the village of Yalta. Pro-Russian sources have published this objective control footage, a 1-minute 25-second video. In this footage, we see how the fighting for this small village unfolded, from artillery preparation to FPV drone clearing operations and finally storming actions. In the final seconds, we see multiple Russian flags being raised in different parts of the village. There are 5 or 6 distinct moments showing Russian soldiers raising flags. Based on this footage, a full map update was issued. We see flags raised in the southwest, center, east, and of course the north. There is no doubt that the Russian army has fully cleared Yalta. Reports are already coming in that Russian forces have started advancing toward the next village, Zirka. It seems combat operations for Zirka may begin as early as tonight. This village is unlikely to be held by Ukrainian forces for long. Again, if we look at Ukrainian sources, they paint a completely fictional picture. For example, Deep State, the pro-Ukrainian mapping service, claims that today Russian troops only finished clearing the village of Konstantinopol. There's no mention of Alexeyevka or Bohatyr yet. They claim that Russian forces have just reached the western outskirts of Andriivka. According to this service, territories such as Alexeyevka, Bohatyr, Zeleny Kut, and positions along the river are either in the grey zone or fully under Ukrainian control. Clearly, some confusion is occurring here. Meanwhile, on the Huliapol direction, the Russian army is finalizing the clearing of the village of Shevchenko. This information is now being circulated even by pro-Ukrainian cartographers. They are actually among the first to report this. It's likely that the village will be completely cleared in the very near future. Possibly tomorrow, the Russian Ministry of Defense will confirm this and issue corresponding map updates. We see that the Russian army is steadily approaching the westernmost borders of the Donetsk region. Very soon, this area will be fully cleared. After that, Russian forces will only remain active in the northern and northwestern parts of the region. These include the cities of Slovyansk, Druzhkivka, Kramatorsk, and of course, Pokrovsk. And that's all for today, dear friends. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and all the best to you.